Hey everyone, and welcome to our live. I'm here with my good friend and colleague Ken. Ken, how's it going today, man?
Hey, it's doing pretty good. Honestly, a little bit cold up here in Toronto. Welcome everyone. So good to see you
Awesome,
again.
awesome. Good, good.
Yeah.
And I have the lovely Mrs. Deer here with us, so she's gonna pipe in with any questions. You want to say a quick hi, Jen?
Hello, welcome everyone.
Awesome, awesome.
And I
So
can't hear Ken, so just keep that in mind.
no worries. She it's not like she's quite muted, but she can't hear us talk, and she's gonna get a delay as she's going through. But anyways, we're here for our Q&A live. We got through, I think it was one
How
of the
many
six
questions?
pages. Yeah, we got through one of the 6 pages last time we did this. So this is part two. We don't know how many parts they're going to be. But before we get started, I just wanted to welcome everybody. We appreciate you joining us live. And we also just wanted to, obviously wish everybody our, our heartfelt, what are we going to say, Jen? Like wishes, condolences. I mean, there's just been devastation that's gone through Florida with the last two hurricanes. So we just hope that everybody is healthy and safe. And I'm just, that much devastation and loss. Our hearts just go out to everybody.
Yeah.
And in that spirit, we are offering a free design that says the sun will always shine in Florida. So anyways, we just really feel for everybody who's gone through this last couple weeks with all of these hurricanes hitting Florida pretty hard. So
Yeah.
anyways, that is kind of on that one. I do also want to mention that if you haven't heard, November the 2nd is actually our, reveal for our new Embroidery Legacy software. We're going to be featuring our Embroidery Legacy Digitizer. And this is a pretty big deal for me because it kind of feels like it's 40 years in the making. And Ken has been obviously on the development team since almost the beginning. But as far as the testing of the software, we have some other great testers that are helping us along the way. But if you have not registered yet, please register on our site, and Beth should be putting up some links. Very easy to register. You just click on the page, and I think I actually have the page up here somewhere, and it looks something like this right here. But you just click on that page, and it says, yes, save my seat. And you just fill in your email, and you're telling us you're going to be there live to watch the actual demo, the demonstration. And the good news is, if you do register and if you do show up on the 2nd to watch it live, we are actually giving away a Tajima Sai embroidery machine. So that is a pretty big deal
This one
because
back
there's going
here.
to, there you go. Ken's got one
Yeah.
right there. And do you love your Sai, Ken?
Yeah, it's funny because it's not even Halloween yet, but I already have it as a Christmas tree. I love this machine so much. That's why there's the lights on it. Using it every day.
Yeah, it is an awesome machine. We run ours every day with sampling, and obviously we use it with the videos. But Hirsch Solutions is providing an incredible prize valued at $13,000, and we're going to be giving that away live. Now, you have to be there live, though. You have to register, and you have to be there for the entire demonstration, because during the live, we're going to be periodically flashing some two-digit numbers, and there's going to be 3 sets. So you're going to want to make sure you watch for those numbers, because if your name is called, then you'll have a certain amount of time, a few minutes, to email in. Make sure you email with the same email address that you used to register with, and write down those 3 sets of numbers in your email, and you will win a $13,000 8-needle Tajima Sai machine live. I mean, I'm really excited to have this reveal and to have such an incredible prize brought to us by Hirsch Solutions. Right.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I am a little bit jealous though, Ken, because I've
Oh
been
yeah.
cranking. Yeah, because I've been cranking out a ton of, little fix videos. We're kind of coming down to the wire. We have like 3 weeks until the live. We're making sure we're making our list. We're checking it twice. We're working really hard with the development team at Pulse Tajima. They are the people who have partnered with us with this whole venture, and this has been a project that has been 4 years in the making. But we have been doing a whole bunch of testing, but you have gotten a chance to play. because you're testing the software for me, and you're a very talented digitizer. So
Oh, thank you.
well, you are, and the proof is in the stitching. So you've been playing with the software, and without giving away anything about the software, I'm going to show a couple of things that you've done here. This is one you actually just put up today, and I'm going to ask you a couple things because you do beautiful
Okay.
work. But what do you think of the software so far?
I won't say any words, but 2 thumbs up.
Two
And
thumbs
John,
up.
I don't know if you
Okay.
want to put your thumbs up. It's you guys are gonna
Okay.
love it. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay. Two thumbs up, and it is. Well, I'll ask you one other question, but is it easy to use? Is it kind of intuitive and friendly?
I will say that it is incredibly friendly, and it has allowed me already to do things that I never done before on another software,
Awesome.
and I love that. So you guys will see very soon as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's all we can say at this point, but make sure you join us live. This has been a long time in the making, and I kind of love it because I was able to take all of my experience and kind of almost mold it into what I kind of thought would be the best way to do things, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I asked Ken. Hopefully it's a little, easier and intuitive, because digitizing should be made easier. And this is another one you worked on, and I love this. There's the original artwork. There is the rendering within the software, and there is the stitch out because the proof is in the stitching. And you want to tell us a little bit about this logo, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of, for anyone who likes to play video games, I love games that are called Dark Souls, and I guess I just love soldiers who sit by campfires. It's the most, you're relaxing even though you're going through war. So the inspiration is from that, and I just love that in the software I was able to play really quickly with different types of stitches and switch back and forth without trying to give too much away, just between runs and fills and satins. Really fun, really quick, and very easy. So you guys, again,
Awesome.
we'll get to see that very soon.
And you did a great job, because I know what you're dressing up as for Halloween now, I think, right?
I already have it.
Awesome. Okay,
Underneath the
cool.
shirt. No.
Okay, well, that's going to be a totally different reveal, Ken. Awesome.
We'll do a
So
Halloween
we'll get it.
costume one.
Yeah, so make sure you click on that link if you haven't already. Join us for that live. Register
Mm-hmm.
to, and if you register, you can always watch it afterwards, because it will be playing. There will be replays. You'll be able to see the reveal. But the reason why you want to register and you want to be there and watch it with us live is because you will have the opportunity to win a Tajima Sai embroidery machine, which is a pretty big deal. So actually, Jennifer has a question for us already.
Yes. Could you just mention if someone's out of country, are they still able to win the machine?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, you will be. The arrangement that we've made with Her Solutions is they will arrange to have the machine shipped to you if you're in some other place than the US, but you will be responsible for any of the duties, shipping charges, tariffs, all that good stuff. Obviously, that would be on the person who wins the machine if you are outside of the US. If you are in the US, absolutely no problem, though, and that's the continental US, obviously not in Alaska or Hawaii. But if you are in the US, Hirsch has, I think, multiple locations all across the US, so they'll make sure they get the machine to you. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Good to go, Jen? Okay, so Q&A, Ken, we're going to try to start on a
Part
couple of
2.
things here. Part 2.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is a tough one, and I'm going to let you go first on this because I'm putting you on the
Uh-oh.
spot. I did read these over, and had a little bit of time to think about it, but this is from Mr. Oakes, and he says, just started my anime embroidery business. Any advice?
He just started his anime embroidery business. Any advice?
Yes.
Ooh, in terms of what? Is there specific? Because that's a
No,
very broad statement.
I know it's a very broad, but that's all he
Yeah.
said. And you're the anime king, so this is perfect question for you.
I would say, let me see your socials. Let's see what kind of creations are you showcasing on socials, because I feel like for anime, there's such a huge demand for anime. People love it, and it's I mean, the styles are just different. If I could say one thing is, always try to be the most original you can with the designs that you create, because that is how you're able to stand out in your own niche of the anime world. So try to do something else that no one has done before. And when it comes to anime, and you'll be doing pretty good. Showcase your work. I think for me, when I was doing a lot of anime, I really enjoyed the process of things. And a lot of times, people normally just like to show the end results. But if you showcase from beginning to end, it's almost like you're telling a story. So that kind of, I mean, that has to do. That's just everything overall, but it can be specific to anime. What
Okay,
would
and
you
I have
say?
a well, I have a whole bunch of questions because I know next to nothing about anime.
Okay,
Uh,
yes.
other than I've seen a lot of your designs, and I would say number one, I think quality is key with anything embroidery. So have
Yes.
them done, digitized properly. You want to make sure that it is, just incredible quality
Mm-hmm.
because the proof is in the stitching. People, that's the first thing they're going to see. And I always used to tell people when I used to do, classes on how to make money with embroidery. If you
Mm-hmm.
are at this point not a qualified digitizer, if you're still in the learning process, then by all means find a person who is qualified. And even though you have to pay them, and a price sometimes reflects the quality that you get, you're better
Yeah.
off to pay a person a fair wage, so to speak, for getting quality designs because that is what people see. And if your embroidery is ugly and if it does not look good, then that's going to be a direct reflection of your business. And that means you're going nowhere. It's a race to the bottom. So you want to make sure that your quality is number one. Now, I
Yeah.
think there's also two more things that I think to look at. And this is with, I think what you were saying, Ken, that we could have had a little more information. Are you looking at selling anime designs to
Mm-hmm.
other people who have machines? Which
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not sure how much you have to worry about infringement, meaning
Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of anime designs are obviously,
Like copyrighted.
copyrighted.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
So you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And secondly, or are you doing anime on items that you sell? And then
Mm-hmm.
that is also out of my scope because I have no idea what's trendy anymore. As far
Yes.
as people who like anime. Is there anything that stands out for anime people that they would like to see anime designs on? Is it just shirts or is there something
I,
different?
No, I feel like, well, at least from what I understand and the niche that I was in, a lot of people really enjoyed more comfortable things like hoodies, which is why I just say hoodies all the time, sweaters. It's because I was in that all the time, and I found that the account that I was using grew really fast when I started creating a lot of original work, and that's because
Mhm.
you kind of like just push that creativity of like, hey, I'm creating something that doesn't exist yet, and you're bringing that special, I guess, character to life through embroidery. Now, just to piggyback right on a really good point, and thank you so much for pointing it out that you made. If you don't know what a good design looks like, even if you hire someone else to digitize for you, you may hire someone who's not professional. So it's good to understand, I think, as even as a beginner, what makes good digitizing. Now, thankfully, John does have the free digitizing cheat sheet and video guide because I went through it recently, and I love that you showcase how the stitch types, the tension, the connections, and everything, and like the vacuum of the stitching. I think
Mhm.
is a really good point to know.
Well, the foundation of any the the foundation of any embroidery business is what you feed your machine. In
Mm-hmm.
reality, I mean that's because a machine operates on speed. So the
Mm-hmm.
faster it goes, the more money you make. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can have a high speed on a design that has way too many stitches and it still might look good, but you could be losing money at that point because you could have had a design that had, equal visual quality results with 5,000 less stitches.
Yeah.
And that would have been off your machine much quicker. You would have, made more profit because you're providing more, output on your machine. So less trims, less color changes and something. All of that is really important for being profitable with embroidery. So I would agree with
Yeah.
you on everything you said. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot now. But yeah, that anime thing really does. I guess it sparks my interest because I'm from the old skull type thing. I love skulls and crossbones and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and anime is kind of in that cool genre as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the stuff that you're going to be coming out with, because I know a lot of it is geared to that, right?
Yes, that's right. I feel like one of these lives we should cater to just me showing you a few enemies, and then
That would be good. But
get your thoughts on it.
you could digitize them in the new Embroidery Legacy Digitizer. That would be
Yeah,
even more fun. Okay, awesome.
yeah,
But we have to wait till after the second for that to
that's
happen.
right.
Okay.
Yes, yeah,
So I think that covers that a little bit, and it was a little vague, but we really kind of need more information. We could do a whole session on how to start an embroidery business, but that could be
yeah,
another topic. Okay, another question
yeah.
is, what is the best way to embroider on towels? So the best way to embroider on towels. You tell me your thoughts first, Ken.
Okay, embroidery on towels. I feel like I already have it in the back of my mind. We need to have more density. We need to have the right stabilizer, which is tearaway in this case, and we need to have a wash away topper stabilizer. So putting those three together with the right density for the design, you got a pretty clean embroidery towel.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would agree with all of those. I might, when you say more density, I would probably say more density actually reflects the type of underlay. So you're adding more underlay stability to a towel. So
Okay.
I don't know if I would have more top density on a
Mm-hmm.
design, but I would definitely have more structure, because towels obviously have that pile, that loft. Things can get lost in it. A lot of
Yeah.
people think you need more top density because the pile pushes through the stitches and separates the stitches, and that's when you see the towel show through. And a way to get around that is, you might use a double zigzag with an edge run, so you're keeping the edges nice and clean, but the double zigzag is holding down the pile of the
Mm-hmm.
actual embroidery, so the top stitches float on top of underlay as opposed to floating on top of pile. I think that the other things that you could consider is when the knockdown stitches, and knockdown is a term that we've used in the embroidery industry for 35, 40 years. So I know that there is different terms for this, but it is a loose fill that you place down first onto a item that has a high pile, and it is a low density with no underlay, and it crushes down the pile so that you can put a design on top of it, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't have things disappear into the pile. So you could use a knockdown stitch to have a base. That would be another option that would keep things nice and clean.
You would
Or
do the same color of the towel, right? In that case, it would be white, so
exactly.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you have a purple towel. And this is why I always used to joke with people, how many colors of thread can you have in your stash? Because, there's thread stashes. The truth of the matter is you need all of them. I mean, if whatever brand you work with, if it's Madeira, just, bite the bullet, buy the entire kit that they offer, so you have every color under the rainbow. Because if you do want to start matching threads to different garment colors, you do
Mm-hmm.
need potentially as close a match as possible. So I always try to match the thread color as close as possible. Now, how about, and then a topper? Yes. I mean, if you want to have a water soluble topper on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with you on the stabilizer for sure. I know that there is some stabilizers. Floriani did sell one that was actually called Tearaway Rinse Away. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I used that, and I thought, here's just another way to, make it a little bit different. But the tearaway rinse away that they sold, and I'm sure other companies have a equal product, so to speak, it tore away. But any exposed little fibers that were on the back of that towel, after a couple of cycles through laundering, through the
Hmm.
washing cycles, it would actually disappear the fibers. So when you looked at the back of the towel, you didn't see anything other than just the stitches. You didn't see stabilizer. You know what I mean? So
That sounds
that
good.
that it was a specialty stabilizer. I know Floriani had it, but you can check with some of the other companies like Dime or whoever you use and see if they have something similar. But that one was good. I used to joke when I did events, Ken, that I'd ask people, about their bathrooms if they have any of those towel sets that are there, and I'd always get into this thing about, which way's better. Is the toilet paper supposed to go over or under? Because Jennifer, my lovely wife, has some rules for the bathroom. You can't put it under; it has to go over. Why, I don't know, but it just had to be that way. I tested it both ways, Ken, and it worked just as well either way for practical. Okay, but anyways,
Is
happy
it
wife,
because
happy life.
if it's
I'm
under
getting
like
dirty.
it
Okay, no, don't even try to explain it.
no
Just Jennifer, you are right, my love.
Is it
it's
not
over.
happy
It's over.
spouse, happy house?
Oh, happy spouse, happy house. Okay, my wife just corrected me. It's happy spouse, happy house, and it is a two-way streak. My wife keeps me very, very happy. So, anyways, let's move on from this because I'm digging myself into a very shallow grave. But I always used to joke with people about towels in the powder rooms, because when I went into somebody's powder room, if you had embroidered towels sitting there in your powder room and I'm a guest in your house, as an embroiderer, guess what I'm really studying? The towels, right?
The powder
You
room
know,
towels. Yeah.
yeah.
The
You're
ones in the
looking.
kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Anywhere you see embroidery as an embroidery as an
Yeah.
embroiderer, you look at the front, you look at the back, because we don't
Yeah.
just look at the front of the item, we look at the back, right? So yeah, it's really important. Jennifer has a question.
Yes. How much stabilizer would you recommend for embroidering on trucker hats?
Okay, trucker hats. How much stabilizer would you recommend? That's going off topic. Let me get to that one in 1 second, Jen.
Okay.
Okay, we'll finish up on the towels real quick because I think that was Jennifer's cue for me to move on. But the thing with towels as well is, how would you hoop a towel, Ken? If you had
How
a
would I hoop a
choice.
towel?
Yeah, how would you hoop that?
I mean, is Mighty Hoops like the
Yep.
because
Okay.
I would love
I
to
would
use Mighty
definitely.
Hoops for everything.
Me too. I would use Mighty Hoops because you're not
Yeah.
crushing the towel in between two
Yes.
pieces of plastic, right? It's kind of
Yes.
being squashed. I would agree
Yeah.
100%. If you are using a traditional hoop, I would maybe make a kind of a window out of some other products to make sure it doesn't squash the pile of the terry cloth. Or in some circumstances with terry cloth, and I very rarely say to do this because I'm not a big fan, but floating your towel on a piece of stabilizer, if it's not a really stitch intensive design, is one of the easiest ways to not crush the pile within the hoops. So anyways,
Is there an
now
adhesive tearaway, by the way?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of and they've gotten better. I mean, I know Floriani, I mentioned it again because I did work with the Floriani stabilizers quite a bit when I gave events, and awesome product. But they had tacky stabilizers, so they had tearaway tackies where you
Okay.
basically just score the stabilizer, and then it becomes a tacky surface. And it actually, the old tackies in the old days, I found, used to really gum up your needles. That was the downside, is
Right.
after using them all day long, your needles would get gummed up. The newer tackies from a reputable manufacturer, they actually don't gum up your needles as much. And if you do get your needles a little gummed up, we use diaper wipes to just wipe down the needles quickly, and it took all the crap off the needles. So
Gotcha.
anyways, yeah. Now Jennifer's question was on a trucker hat.
Mm-hmm.
How many layers of stabilizer, Ken, would you use on the back of a trucker hat?
I would only use one piece of tearaway stabilizer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree 100%. I think that if you need to use more than one layer of stabilizer on the back of a hat, then it would probably be a digitizing or design issue more than anything else. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it really does depend too, because with hats, and I know trucker style hats are usually the higher ones with the laminated buckram in there. You got to remember that laminated buckram that's already it's a powdered adhesive that they actually apply that material. If it's a drill, a cotton drill, or whatever type of fabric it is, it's actually heated onto the back of that buckram, and that's what gives it the structure. And that buckram, in reality, is really hard. I mean, you in some circumstances could get away with not having any stabilizer at all if you have a structured hat, right?
Yeah.
But I think it always is a good practice to do that. Okay, another question, Jen, or should I move on? Nope. Okay.
Go on. Yeah.
So here, okay, this one actually, and this is a little loaded, so I have to, don't have to answer, but I'll ask. Do you still do tutorials for Hatch embroidery? We obviously were a reseller for Hatch for many, many years, and we were, I guess, dismissed from that role. So in all honesty, we don't have any plans to do any further tutorials for Hatch, but I can guess that there's probably going to be an insane amount of tutorials for the Embroidery Legacy Digitizer. And that's part of your thing. So is there some stuff coming down the pipes, Ken?
Oh, there definitely is, guys. If for anyone that knows me before, John and I worked together with like Legacy together, I love digitizing. There's something about it that is like unlike anything else. And with the new software, again, without giving away too much, I feel like a kid with the biggest fire truck toy ever right now. So I'm waiting for the second so we can get started, you know?
I know, I know.
Yeah.
You're chomping at the bit. Yeah, Ken's giving me all these crazy ideas, and I'm like, whoa, let's hold on a second. Okay. Now here's another question. This one's going back to Stale. He says, I have always been taught. This is from Maryland. I have always been taught to use a water soluble stabilizer on top of knit fabric to keep the stitches from sinking in. However, watching your videos on embroidering T-shirts, you don't. Is it really not necessary? So I'll
Mm.
let you answer that one first, Ken, and then I'll kind of pipe in with my opinion.
Yeah. I believe that. She said a stretchy shirt, right?
She just said she was always taught to use water-soluble stabilizer on top of a knit fabric to keep
Oh,
the
on top of a
stitches.
knit fabric.
Yep.
Assuming that would be like a beanie, then in that case, yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's where,
Yeah. It depends, right? Because knit can be in
yeah,
different weights too. Yeah.
exactly. So I would consider actually a T-shirt or a sweatshirt, like a Gildan sweatshirt or something.
Mm-hmm.
Those are obviously milled, they're knitted materials,
Mm-hmm.
but they aren't necessarily what I would consider a loose knit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a T-shirt, when you look at it, it has obviously most T-shirts, sweatshirts are same as a golf shirt. They're sewn on the bias, so you have more stretch this way, less stretch this way on the body. But
Mm-hmm.
a T-shirt and a sweatshirt, when you look at it and you see all the little lines or the ribs of how it was milled, they're usually very, very tightly wound together, which means that you're not going to lose stitches in those fabrics as much as you would in a PK knit golf shirt. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some golf shirts where when you're talking about knitted fabrics, when we did commercial embroidery, we always used water soluble toppings on golf shirts. And
Mm-hmm.
in some circumstances, depending on the manufacturer, the weight, how the sweatshirts were milled, because some can be milled with a looser knit and tighterly. I guess it can be more tightly woven or less tightly woven, whatever it is. I would look at the fabric and look at the design. See, if there's a design that has really tiny, small lettering in it and really fine detail with running stitches, then I might make a educated decision to use a water soluble topping because those tiny letters can get lost in that knit. But
Yeah.
if it's a design that has a fill with a satin border and then there's lettering inside of the fill and there's really no tiny objects that are falling outside of that, then I don't think a water soluble topping would be necessary. So if I were to answer that question, I would say it really depends on the design and the fabric that you are actually embroidering on. But I don't think that it's a generic rule that you would say, always do I have to use a water soluble topping? It depends.
Mm. And for the polo shirts that you mentioned, in that case, let's say we do have to create small text. Would you say you almost would get better results by using a smaller needle and smaller thread weight?
Not
Or
necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, and I feel like a broken record sometimes because being a manufacturer, we never really changed needles. We didn't
yeah.
go from ballpoint to sharp. Really, if you're doing a lot of golf shirts and you have machines that are set up for that type of production, you probably change your needles to a ballpoint needle so that it would deflect from the fabric as opposed to tearing through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something that you would potentially do, or you might have finer weight threads or things of that nature. But when we did production on golf shirts, and we did tons of them, we really tried to adjust the designs to be friendly for the medium as opposed to changing needles, changing threads, all that kind of stuff, because that was downtime on the machine. And
Yeah.
machines are very simple it's a simple equation. The machine's running, you make money. It's not
Mm-hmm.
running, you don't make money. It's just,
Yeah.
that's the way it works. So it really would depend on the item. One thing I will mention, and Jennifer remembers this because we used to actually run night shift. I remember Jennifer and I, when were we teenagers, Jen? Maybe, or just in our early 20s. But we would go into our factory on Tychos Avenue in Toronto, and I took you there, Ken. I showed you where we used to have our factory. We would actually run a night shift, like a third shift, sometimes when we didn't have employees, because if we had work to do, somebody had to go do it. So Jennifer and I would go. And I remember on golf shirts, if we had really, really tiny letters on a golf shirt, what I would do when I hit those letters is I would slow the machine speed down to a crawl, meaning instead of running at 550 or 600 stitches per minute, I'd slow it down to 300. Because the slower the machine goes, the less tension it draws. And in a way, the bolder those small objects become. I mean, most people don't do that these days, and you probably don't have to, but those are silly little things that we did in the old days to try to counteract the amount of tension that was being drawn on a design. So,
Yeah.
anyways.
You kind of let the machine breathe in that case, right? Because as it's pulling, instead of it just doing it so fast that it like pushes it back, you let it like go up, and then, like you said, the tension.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's incredible advances now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Tajima has a new machine that actually does have a auto tensioning feed to it, which looks incredible.
Yeah.
I really want to get one, and I know you want one too. But they have one now that has automatic pressure foot adjustment and tension adjustments, and that would actually counteract for that automatically. But when you have all your dials on a regular machine and the dials are set, when you run that machine super fast, the faster it runs, the more it's going to draw tension on the bobbin and the top thread. The slower it runs, the less speed, the less kind of like tension that gets drawn, and it can
Yeah.
increase your weight. I mean, it might be, we're getting too picky here. We're like, a tenth of a millimeter or something, but
Yeah.
that, it could matter. So, anyways,
Before you move on
now,
to the next question, by the way,
yeah.
if you don't mind me asking, but so in your experience from when you used to create small stitches or small designs, more specifically logos, what kind of conversation would you have with the client when they brought a super tiny logo design with so many letters in it? Would you just tell them no, I can't do this, or would you be more like, hey, we need to size it up? What was
Well,
the conversation there?
there I would try to I try to get them to understand the reality of embroidery, and that is part of training your customers. If you are an embroiderer or digitizer and you're dealing with people who just sell the merch, I mean, they don't really even understand the stitch type. So what we used to do, and we did this within a brochure that we had, we would give people a crash course of, and it was little visuals, but this
Mm-hmm.
is a run stitch, this is a fill stitch, this is a satin stitch. We'd show them all of the kind of foundational things they need to understand, not to be an embroiderer or digitizer, but just to sell the stuff properly to their customers. And we
Mm-hmm.
try to give them reasonable minimums and maximums of lettering and designs and what can and can't be done, properly. Because if you can teach your customers and give them parameters that they will understand, then they won't bring potentially or eventually those impossible things, because you can print anything, right? You can go as
Yeah.
small as you want, but we're not dealing with ink, we're dealing with thread, and needles, and it's
Yeah.
pushing material all over the place. But I also had another rule in Punch Perfect, and I always remember, not I guess it was a little bit of a downfall. I would always try to say to customers that I actually, how can I word this? I would never want to say no. I would
Mm-hmm.
always want to try to find a solution to their issues. So we did like really, really tiny lettering on golf shirts. Sometimes the lower case was like 2 millimeters high, and that was using a 40 weight thread. And how did I do that? I manually punched every single stitch so that it went only in one direction, so that there was no turning of the objects. And it had to be a certain type of font. It had to be, it had to kind of fit within my parameters. But we actually got really tiny legible things because I took the time to do it manually. do you make money off of that as a digitizer? No. But if you are a commercial embroiderer, and if you show your customer that you can do something that nobody else can, guess who they're coming to next time?
Yeah.
You, right? Because you've proven
Mm-hmm.
yourself. If you're good with the details, you're good with everything else. So, any other questions come in, Jen, so far? No? Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Ken. Okay. So, okay, here, Jenny has asked, I had heard that almost all stabilizer is produced in the same factories and rebranded. Is there really a difference between the no-name stabilizer and the fancy ones I get from my dealer? Okay, do you want to answer this, Ken? And I'll give you my opinion.
Ooh, I'm gonna say that I did watch a video where I heard you say that a lot of them are produced in the same factory. So that's been my knowledge since.
Okay,
Is
and
that still accurate?
maybe not. I think it might have been when I kind of was making those statements, and this is going back way pre-COVID, and when I did events all across the country.
Yeah.
And many, many years ago, we actually had, I guess, we tried to brand our own stabilizer. It was not really a big success for us, but we tried. And the same people that we were getting our stabilizer from
Mm-hmm.
was the same provider for many of the other companies at the time that were selling it. Now, when I
Mm-hmm.
say that it's probably not accurate anymore, I have seen, like many things in the last decade or so, there is a ton of products coming from China, from offshore. And a lot of the stuff you're seeing at Amazon, I know that
Yeah.
there's a big rigmarole now with a lot of these, companies now that are selling stuff into the U.S. from China. Now there's all kinds of restrictions that are being put in place, which personally I think is a good thing because, but again, that's actually, I maybe shouldn't say that because I might get in trouble by saying that. But I think that a lot of the stabilizers that have come into North America recently might not be from those original manufacturers that I worked with many years ago. Now
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of other products that have been brought in from offshore. And I'm just saying that because I have purchased a lot of products from Amazon, like many of you have, and I know you have, Ken. Uh,
Yeah.
but I've seen, like, I've ordered no-show mesh from a couple of different places, and they definitely are not the same product. Some
Mm-hmm.
actually have shrunken, like they weren't done the same way that I was used to. I've had some shrinking problems with them. I've seen that the heat press grid is not quite the same. The quality doesn't feel the same. So I think that a lot of the reputable stabilizers that you might buy, those are probably still from some of the same factories. But I think, like anything, we're dealing in a world that is very different now than it was, 20, 25 years ago. There's a lot of products that are being brought in from offshore. So
Yeah. I remember when
awesome.
you introduced me to the no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer, and to this day, that's become my favorite stabilizer ever. I try to use it as
Yeah.
much as I can, and I used to be such a fan of tearaway stabilizer because it's so easy. You just rip it off as a beginner. Like, you obviously don't want to have anything on the back, but I love how easy it is to use, and it just makes embroidery come out perfectly. But again, obviously, it depends on what kind of fabric you're embroidering on. Sometimes
Yeah.
you have to use a tearaway.
And
But
I
yeah.
think it can be hit or miss because I do, the no-show mesh that I originally was accustomed to was Floriani because we were, working kind of side by side with Floriani. They used to give us lots of stabilizer because we were doing with dealers with them, and that's what the dealers carried. So Floriani would give us stabilizers to use, and it was wonderful. It was like a wonderful symbiotic relationship. But their stabilizers were great. They had, no-show mesh in 3 colors. They had fusible and non-fusible. The quality was always consistent. And then
Mm-hmm.
since we no longer are on the road anymore, and I don't have any dealers, like sewing machine dealers, close to where I live, like for probably 1,000 miles. So I have started getting stuff from Amazon. And when I started ordering, I ordered from probably 3 or 4 different, it all said no-show mesh. And I did notice at that point that some of them were not the same quality as others. And what I've done is I've kind of found the one on Amazon that I like, and I have been reordering that one because it seems consistent. So I would just be
Yeah.
wise and educated, and you buy listen, you buy a roll of stabilizer on Amazon and it isn't really great quality, you're out, $15. It's not going to hopefully break the bank,
Yeah.
and you might use it for something else, but I would definitely test them. Okay. This one's kind of cool. This is from Kaylin. This is, I'm working on a puffy jacket as a gift. So a puffy jacket. Do I need a topper for this? It says I'm embroidering letters and a sun design. Now I do have a kind of a picture here, so I'll just hold this up.
Oh, nice.
It's a Voyager men's polar fleece line puffer jacket. It says that it's water resistant, which if you start penetrating a whole bunch of needle holes through it, guess what? It's no longer water resistant in those areas. It's got zippered pockets, which might be an obstacle depending on where they're located. And it is poly-filled fleece lined. So this is just a little picture of what it's like. So she did send a picture, which is very good. But when you're dealing with a puffy jacket, what would you do, Ken? And would you put a topper on it?
I couldn't really see the picture well, so I can't tell if the puffiness is it like
Here,
the kind
I'll
of
show
like
it to you
felt.
again. There it is.
Okay.
There, see it? Just kidding.
Well, I got to see a black square, so that's all.
No, it looks like it's a polar fleece. So think of it says men's polar fleece lined. So it's
Yeah.
got a polar fleece lining, and because it's water resistant,
Yeah.
I'm guessing it would probably be like a poly nylon. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. That's our little Daisy girl. She's 14 years old and she's very temperamental. So,
She's so
anyways,
cute.
yeah. It's just a puffy jacket for the most part. But I don't think it's polar fleece on the outside. It's on the inside. It's fleeced.
Okay, yeah. Then I would say like I wouldn't necessarily add any topper.
No, I agree.
Because from what I imagine, if the waterproofing is coming from the outside, then that should still be okay to stitch out, and the threads wouldn't necessarily sink in. It would all be on the back, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree 100%. The only thing that I had with puffy jackets sometimes is obviously when you embroider them and it starts to take all those pieces of material and squish them together, sometimes you end up having it look like a reverse embossed, like you're having the fabric puffing out, which we did this a couple times commercially where people had like winter line jackets or Letterman jackets that had the winter lining. And it wasn't the panels, it was the finished product. And what we would tell our customers to do was instead of trying to embroider fine details on a puffy jacket, we would actually get them to do an applique. In other words, let's put it in some type of shape. And then what we did was we would hoop the jacket, stitch it, have some running stitches going down almost like a fill to push that puffiness down. And that area then sunk down. And because it was the shape of the applique, that applique just kind of popped into that little area that we hollowed out. And then we would stitch around it. And then we could embroider all the detail on top of that applique, and it wouldn't get lost in the puffiness. And if you think about it, you could, if it was a black jacket, you could do a black applique with a black satin stitch. So visually, it won't even necessarily look like a patch. It still has the same thing, but it would definitely aid in having the garment not look like a mistake. Yeah. Because you're crushing all that.
That sounds like a great tutorial.
Okay, mark that one down. Ken is in charge of all of our tutorials and stuff. So he's writing that one down, and I'm really behind. Ken has given me a list of things like, John, you need to do this, this, and this. And we've been so busy working with the digitizer that I am really far behind. But Ken, you have definitely picked up the slack. Lots of great content on our channel. And I'm sorry, you guys, I'm sorry that you haven't seen much of me, but I've been like pretty deep right now.
And I gotta say, I'm sorry that you have to see my face like so often, but John will come back very soon, I promise.
God willing, yes. Okay. Now here's one. It's from, actually, it doesn't even say who it's from, but it says, I use Embroidery. And if you're not familiar, Ken, Embroidery is a program that was it
Yep.
was very popular a while back. I kind of haven't seen much recently. And is that my phone somewhere? Anyways, sorry, I'm dinging here somewhere. But they are self-taught with Embird, and the tutorials are not complete from start to finish, but are all parts and pieces. And they have trouble, I guess, finding specific questions. They're sort of saying, is there a good source out there for Embird? And they want to learn how to intertwine letters, which is basic pathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What feature in Embird lets you emulate overlapping parts? So that one, I don't have any education for Embird specifically. I know that
Mm-hmm.
I did play with it many years ago, and I think it was a very popular program because the price point was, it had a very low, entry to price. And my personal opinion at the time was that kind of reflected the tools that were available for it and what I felt it produced for embroidery. So I chose many years ago to never do any tutorials specifically for Embird, but in fairness, I have not played with it recently.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion would be to go on to Facebook groups, go on to see if there's any other educators, hopefully qualified educators, that are now offering tutorials for it. But I'm kind of stumped on that one. I think that, and we do have some basic theory that we offer. I think that basic theory would be helpful to whatever program people use. But I do agree that having education, for and preferably interactive education for the program that you use is the best path to success.
Yeah.
So, did you ever play with Embird?
I know I never had the chance to play with it. Is it for
Okay.
PC or Mac or?
I believe it's for PC. I don't think that it was available for Mac, and it did. It was really big. I remember like 15 years ago when I kind of, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even more, when I entered into the home industry. Embird was really, really popular, and I did, because it was so popular at the time, I did consider doing education, and all of the software that I do have the interactive education for, I did, kind of. I vented those. I went through them and tested them and played with them. And the ones that I kind of felt were, I guess, good. I don't know what I'll say, but I actually could figure them out.
Yeah.
Then those are the ones that I actually did tutorials with. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So,
I feel like I mean, I don't have that much experience compared to you when it comes to digitizing softwares, but I'm sure every single one of them has given you some sort of feeling towards when you create, and you probably go for the ones that make you feel the best and make it as easy, right?
yeah. The ease of use is always a big one. How much of a learning curve. I did have years ago. My general rule of thumb was, when somebody gave me a software program to play with, is I would load the program. I'd give it like a day to kind of go through and try to find the tools and figure it out and make it work. And I would make sure that I did all of that with never looking at the manual, because I always figured that, with my background being, 40 years ago, I started mechanically one stitch at a time. If I can't look at a program and find the foundational tools within that program within a few hours, then it's just not worth playing, because, not all software is created equal, but all programs do have the same types of tools within them.
I do the same, but for IKEA furniture. I build it without the manual.
Awesome,
And then
awesome.
when it's all wrong, I have to go back to it.
Okay,
Yep.
now here's a question from Jamie. Is there an easy way to perfectly place a left chest logo without using Mighty Hoops or the Hoop Master, just using the standard hoops that come with a domestic flatbed machine? What would you say, Ken?
I would say there is. There's definitely other tools that you can get that help you measure from the chest. There are also just regular measuring, what's it called? Just tips that you can follow depending on the size that you want to use. And for me, what's worked the best is I normally just kind of follow what this point is right here, bring it down.
Yep,
Yeah.
right down and
And then
over.
and
Yeah.
then over, yeah. And one of the best tips that has helped me out, especially for big shirts, is that sometimes it's better if the design is closer to the center as opposed to more outwards, because sometimes with bigger shirts, it's almost at the armpit. You don't want to have
Yes,
the
you,
design on the
you
armpit.
definitely. There are some guides. We do have the Echidna Hooping Station, which that does make it kind of easier to get your logos straight. Especially
Hmm.
that's one thing I noticed, that people have trouble with positioning, but they also have trouble a lot of times getting logos if they are baselines, lettering and stuff like that, to get it straight. Because the last thing you want to do is have somebody show you you say, oh, how do you like the logo on my shirt? And if they do this, you're in trouble, because your design has gone one way or the other. But I know with the Echidna Hooping Stations, we do have an option where you can get what's it called, the perfect placement guide or something like that. But it helps give you a little way to track down and over, and makes it a little bit more simple. But
Embroiderer's helper.
Embroiderer's helper, that's it, the Embroiderer's helper. But definitely, I think that hooping aids are well worth the investment. Mighty Hoops is incredible.
Hmm.
I would, hands down, they're kind of the cream of the crop. But from a home perspective, the Echidna Hooping Stations, they're friendly to any brand of machine because they're held in with magnets, which is kind of cool. Okay,
Yeah.
well, Ken, we're going to take a quick break from answering questions for a second, because I do want to go back over here and show a couple things that we actually have coming up. I want to show people what's new at Embroidery Legacy. And one thing that is new is our Christmas in July bundle, which if you did get a chance to come to our Christmas party, give us some thumbs up, some hearts, put it in the comments. Let us know if you had a good time and enjoyed yourself. I love doing those. I love creating designs every year, doing them. This was the first year that we did it in July, and I think we had our best bundle ever. And we are releasing that bundle, I think tomorrow or today. I can't remember when. And just so you know, it is not at the same price point that you would have gotten it for in July. You guys got a smoking deal in July because you came to the party and you signed up. But for those of you who did miss it, we do have the bundle available now. And it is all grouped together, 92 embroidery designs, 5 in the hoop projects, all for $79.95. And we have some just really fun things that we put together for that one. And yes, I have already started on next year's designs, and it will be in July again. So that's one thing that we have going on. The other one is our 2024 Thanksgiving bundle. And all of these designs were just released today or tomorrow. I don't know when, but they should be up there in our new releases. And they are just a bunch of really cute designs that you can put on anything you want. T-shirts, sweatshirts, little bags with stuff you're going to put in for your family and friends. If you want to put them on a placemat, whatever you want to do, they are simple, easy designs that will look great for your Thanksgiving, bundle. And I should mention that this weekend in Canada, what is it, Ken?
It's Thanksgiving.
It's
Yay. I was looking
Thanksgiving.
at those
Yeah,
designs right now and I thought to myself, why don't I embroider those on some towels and gift them to family? That's really
for sure.
nice.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm actually going back to I'm going back to our office in Toronto this coming week, and it just
Yeah.
happens that it's Thanksgiving, and it just happens that my mom's going to make me a turkey, and so I'm kind of excited about that. I get to celebrate with family. So if you would like to win, if you guys would like to win, and we're going to give away the Thanksgiving bundle, what should they write in the comments, Ken, in Facebook and YouTube?
Uh, Turkey.
Turkey. Okay, so write the word turkey in there, and in just a moment or two, we will announce the two winners, one in Facebook, one in YouTube, and you guys will get the 2024 Thanksgiving bundle. And the only other thing that we had in there was, again, make sure you sign up for that November 2nd reveal. I am super, super excited that we
I
are,
agree.
doing that. It's probably the most. I think it's the biggest announcement I've ever had in my career. To be honest, this is kind of it. I don't know what's after this one. You know what I mean? It's because this one just seems so monumental. Yeah. Anyways, so
Yeah.
do we have some people commenting, Jen?
People are commenting, so we'll just wait for people to slow down, and then
Awesome.
we'll get some
I
winners
have a
named.
little
Awesome.
story for the design. So if you go back to the to one of them,
Sure.
so guys, when I hung out with John, we woke up pretty early one morning, and I was looking at that design that says "I don't skip leg day." Uh, John walks every morning, and I thought I could do it. John, do you remember?
Yeah.
He can walk forever, and I was struggling to keep up. At a certain a part of the walk, I had to take off my shoes because my
He
feet
did. He
were
took off
hurting.
his shoes, and I never saw a young man sweat more in my life than I did you, Ken. But that's one
Yep.
of my. For anybody else who's my age, like I'm getting up there a little bit, and I do walk every single day for the most part, because that's just I guess my exercise. So I think I'm in pretty good shape, and that was a crowning moment for me. If you, when you're in your late 50s, can leave a guy in his 20s, in the dust, that feels
Yep.
pretty good. So, anyways,
So you
do we
definitely don't skip leg days. What I'm
have?
trying to say. That's why I looked at that design. I was gonna say, John, do you skip it? But no, you don't. You don't.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. Okay, Jen, do we have some winners?
We do.
Awesome.
We have the YouTube winner and the Facebook winner.
Okay.
The YouTube winner is Shirley, and I'll spell the last name Esau. So congratulations, Shirley.
Awesome. And what does she have to do?
Congrats.
She just has to send in an email to contact@embroiderylegacy.com.
Yep.
Let us know you won the designs, and Leanne will get them sent right out to you.
Yes. And the Facebook winner tonight we have is Abby American. So congratulations, Abby.
Congratulations,
Again,
Abby.
contact@embroiderylegacy.com.
Awesome. Okay, so anyways, that is pretty much it. I will also mention, Ken, you are the guy who's in charge of all of our socials. So do you want to give a little plug on all the stuff we have going on?
Yes. Guys, make sure to follow us on all socials because we're coming out with more content every single day. As well as if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below or anywhere you can because we are here to service. We are here to provide all of the support that we can when it comes to embroidery, digitizing, all of it. I can't wait to see all of you on the 2nd. So if you forget, don't worry because we'll remind you a little bit here and there on our socials. So don't forget to join us and we'll see you there.
Awesome. Any last minute questions, Jen, or parting words?
I did have a question, but I don't know how quick you can do it.
Well, we have exactly 2 minutes and
1 sentence
3
reply.
seconds.
Okay. I seen the question and now I can't see it right now, but someone, I think his name was Mike, was asking for doing hats. If you had a general basics for
Okay, general basics for
embroidering
hats.
hats.
My general rule of thumb has always been bottom up, inside out. That has been the overall, I guess, theory behind doing hats. You always want to make sure that your design starts where your crown meets your peak. So you want to start there and move upwards with your stitching. And you also want to start from that center seam and go from the center to the right and then the center to the left so that you are pushing up and kind of putting out. The reason why is if you start from the top and move down, you'll eventually crunch down towards the peak, and a baseline that might be on the bottom will start to become crooked because your cap can move. And you'll also find that if you go from one side of the head all the way over to the other, because the cap may or may not be structured, they have a tendency to kind of buckle over on themselves and bad things happen. So any other tips that you have, Ken?
Yeah, I love what you mentioned about bottom up and from center out because as well with alignment, you're playing with something that's round. So if you have different stitch types that you're playing on top of each other, if you're doing it from one side to the other, that's going to get misaligned. So if you do a center out, then you're golden all the time.
For sure. And just so you guys know, with our new digitizing program coming out and being that obviously this is something that we are partnering with, we are going to have a ton of tutorials and a lot of them will be more advanced tutorials. So caps is definitely going to be one thing that we focus on more.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it. We
Thank you,
got
John.
we got through a page and a half today, so we
Woo!
still have. If you guys want to see Ken and I do this again in a couple weeks' time, just leave it in the comments. But we'll get through this little hit list eventually, and then we can always do it again. We can ask for more questions. So
Yeah,
any
I was
part,
gonna say we haven't asked any more questions yet.
For your
Which maybe we should.
everyone in Canada.
awesome.
And
Mhm.
again, hopefully everyone in Florida is doing A-okay.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving to the Canadian people.
Awesome.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye bye.